Welcome back, everyone. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing the Detroit Lions acquisition of Adrian Peterson in a little bit more detail than I did when I broke this story early this morning. My first thought on it was, when I first saw it on the Lions depth chart, I thought it was a mistake. But then I got confirmation right before I went on the air regarding this that in fact it was fact. And even though I have no new information about who the Lions are cutting in order to make room for Adrian Peterson on the roster, I have given this a little bit of thought. And presumably, the Lions are going to use a three-headed attack with he, Kerryon Johnson, and presumably DeAndre Swift starting. With that being the case, if for those of you who remember the Saints teams of about 5, 6, 7 years ago, the Lions could rush for 150 yards a game. I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask each one of those running backs or expect each one of those running backs to rush for 50 yards. And I think Adrian Peterson will get 10 to 15 carries, and if he gets 50 yards, that would be excellent. But I think realistically, if it's more towards 10, he'd get somewhere between 35 and 50 yards. 15 carries could be upwards of 50 yards, but depending on how the Lions' offensive line blocks, that's really the only thing that I see as a barrier to the Lions not rushing for 150 yards. And last year, I believe they rushed for something like 110 yards a game. I've not been able to do that much research as of yet to check that out, but I think that would be a realistic figure. And they were, I believe, about 15th in the league in rushing. They definitely ought to be in the top 10 now in the league this year, I feel, provided they hold on to the ball long enough, and possibly could be a top 5 rushing team if they do it right. Like I said, as I get closer to Saturday special, I will have more information about the stats and that, as well as when Barry Sanders played, because I actually don't know all that offhand. So it's going to be a fun experience researching that for you. In the next segment, I'm going to be discussing both the men's and ladies' side of the U.S. Open. Stay tuned to this Sports with Ed special on Ed's Sports Channel.